Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, honestly kind of contradictory text, a case study of a character who simply calls themselves the actor. We're going to take a deep dive into logic, paranoia, and what actually happens when a person tries to intellectualize all their feelings just to avoid getting hurt.
So listen to this opening line. I never fall in love. Someone observed my behavior. Wow. It instantly hits you with this jarring, almost clinical tone, right? Right off the bat, it sets up a mind that views romance not as a feeling, but as a literal clinical trial. They aren't experiencing love, they're being observed experiencing it. It places this massive protective distance between themselves and their own heart.
Section 1. The Hypothesis of Love. Romance as a Science. To really get what's going on in this narrator's head, we have to talk about their main tool, behaviorism. But here's the thing. In their context, this isn't just some standard school of psychology. It's a shield. They use it as a lens to scientifically observe other people's actions, and it functions as a complete, impenetrable barrier against genuine emotional connection. They claim it's the only thing they care about, basically using their intellect to totally bypass intimacy. And the whole messy conflict of the text is perfectly captured right here. My hypothesis is what I care, and I had a love affair. I mean, think about that. They are actually attempting to navigate a deeply passionate, inherently chaotic love affair using the sterile, rigid logic of a hypothesis. It's literally like trying to measure poetry with a ruler. It just doesn't work. But they are absolutely determined to force romance into this neat, little scientific box. Notice how they frame themselves as this untouchable, elite observer. They say, hot and sexy girls around, trying to seduce my mind. I observed their behavior and understood their psychology. So they're claiming total immunity to any physical or emotional seduction. Why? Well, because they're supposedly way too busy analyzing the underlying psychology of everyone around them. It's the ultimate defense mechanism, right? Just completely masquerading as intellectual superiority. Section 2. The logical ego. Physics, maths, and grandiosity. So the narrator rapid fires this list of self-assessments. Honest, best, handsome, intelligent. The sheer grandiosity of their ego here is wild. It's just compliment after compliment, seemingly to convince us, or honestly, much more likely to convince themselves, of their absolute superiority. They are building this massive fortress of ego to keep any potential vulnerability securely locked away. But then, the armor starts to crack. We get these two totally conflicting statements. On one hand, we have the claim, physics and maths, they are my topics. Pure, cold, calculated logic. But then, the exact same narrator confesses, I wrote 1,000 lyrics. Weighing those two things against each other, you see the left brain claims of logical supremacy completely at war with their right brain, emotionally driven artistic side. I mean, come on, you do not write 1,000 lyrics if you only care about math. And that glaring contradiction leads us right to this really startling claim. I never dated with anyone on the planet. We gotta pause and ask ourselves, how does someone who boasts about literally never dating anyone on the planet claim to understand the psychology of love and seduction so perfectly? It really highlights that their so-called expertise is entirely theoretical. It's all built in total isolation. Section 3. Paranoia and the Observer, the World Watching. Talk about whiplash. In a super dramatic shift, the narrator goes from claiming to be the best and handsome to suddenly feeling entirely isolated, attacked, and actively cursed by many. That supreme, impenetrable confidence totally shatters, revealing a mind that feels like it's constantly under siege by these unseen critics. And this paranoia gets highly specific. Suggestions of honey trapping, they were sins. For those who might not know, honey trapping is being lured into a compromising situation through romance or attraction. This reveals a deeply rooted paranoia. To our narrator, any affection directed their way isn't just fake, it is a malicious manipulation. They literally cannot trust a single kind gesture because they automatically assume it's a trap. Then the paranoia just goes completely off the charts with the line, getting paid for observing myself. The narrator actually believes that people are literally profiting off of watching and judging their life. They've taken their own personal obsession with observing others and entirely flipped it around. Now they're convinced the whole world is operating as this hostile, profit-driven observer of them. And then the pressure cooker just explodes. When people judged me, I said, fuck you.
These people are mad. The sudden, incredibly aggressive outburst completely shatters whatever illusion was left of that calm, detached behaviorist we met at the beginning. This isn't cold science anymore. This is real, raw, intensely human anger lashing out at a perceived audience. Section 4. The behaviorist's burden, the central paradox. Listen to the absolute desperation in this text. You love me? But what you have done for me. I wrote 1,000 lyrics. And it's not fair. For someone who insists they never fall in love, the raw, unrequited pain and lamenting those 1,000 lyrics is just incredibly tragic. It's so telling. They are heartbroken. They poured their absolute soul out into their art, and now they feel totally shortchanged by the universe. The narrator is basically trapped in this devastating three-step internal loop. First, they claim to only care about cold behaviorism. Second, they demand transactional proof of affection, literally asking, "What you have done for me." And third, they lament the intense unfairness of their own massive emotional effort. This cycle perfectly illustrates how intellectualizing love and treating it like an investment ultimately just leaves you feeling completely victimized, drained, and totally empty. Section 5. The actor's final paradox. Happy in isolation? Here we find this frantic, obsessive confession. I'm the actor and I love you, dear, just repeated over and over. It's as if they are finally desperately admitting that their entire behaviorist persona, the math, the physics, the cold detachment, it was all merely a performance. They are quite literally just an actor playing a part to survive the weight of their own feelings. We gotta pause here for a second. If they're just playing a role, what is actually hiding behind that theatrical mask they wear so tightly? If the logic is fake, what is the reality? Are they protecting a super fragile heart? Or are they just truly lost in the performance, unable to find their way back to whoever they genuinely are? Even in their moments of real affection, they reduce the person they love to a superficial concept, saying, "When it comes to brand image, I loved your image." This just proves they are still terrified of real vulnerability. They can't let themselves love the messy, real, flawed person. They can only safely love the highly curated, distant idea of them. And that leads to this brilliantly bizarre metaphor. I play cricket with my own mind. I mean, it perfectly captures a mind that is constantly at war with itself. They're playing these complex, strategic games where they are the bowler, the batter, and the umpire, all at exactly the same time. They're entirely closed off, functioning as the only active participant in their own exhausting psychological matches. Which results in this final, pretty tragic declaration: I'm alone but happy in my own world. They present this as the ultimate defensive mechanism, claiming to be perfectly 100% content in their complete isolation. But after everything we've just unpacked today, the intense paranoia, the raw anger, the 1,000 heartbreaking lyrics, we really have to wonder if that happiness is just another role the actor is playing for an audience of one. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Is the narrator truly an unfeeling elite observer, or are they merely an actor hiding a deeply bruised heart behind a giant wall of logic? Is their isolation a genuine scientific triumph, or is it just the tragic symptom of a broken heart? It really makes you think about how often we all use logic to protect ourselves from the very things we want the most, doesn't it? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I will catch you in the next explainer.